Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about those Hasbro layoffs, those media layoffs, and how there are going to be more layoffs going into 2024. In fact, we talked about when we were doing the video yesterday about Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. We're like, man, it's really crappy that they did this right before Christmas. Mm-hmm. But now there is a publication out there that's saying, yeah, there's a reason they do it before Christmas, because they basically want to like clear the ledgers. You know,
which makes sense, but still crappy.
It makes sense, but still crappy. But there's another site out there saying that they are hearing that first, second quarter earning results are not going to be where they're going to be. And a lot of people already have decided, a lot of companies have decided they're going to lay people off. They're just not going to do it until a couple months into the new year. So you got a reprieve.
Yeah, but I mean, this doesn't surprise me, actually.
No, it doesn't. The economy is not good, especially in digital journalism, especially in toys and all this other crap that whatever Hasbro does these days, it's not good. But we'll talk about this. And look, I'm not sitting here like, neener, you're going to lose your job. But I'm just saying, like, it's absolutely coming. And there have actually been years of signs. Like, if you know what to look for, I think these people are sweet summer children. I don't think they've ever, worked. A lot of them have never worked during a recession. And for those of us who have and who have gone through it before, you know what to look for. You know when to jump, and you can see the red flags. You know when you should definitely maybe start thinking about some other career options. And these digital journalists especially are just like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. I went to school for this.
I'm owed a job.
I
actually went to journalism college.
I went to journalism college. I was going to say clown college, but same thing. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
That's not a very enthusiastic woohoo.
I have a headache. Woohoo.
Okay. No. Well, if you don't have to.
Screens are like bothering me today.
If you have a headache, you don't have to woohoo. I'm not going to make you woohoo if you have a headache. I wouldn't be a very good husband if I did. This is shopclownfish.com. This is our storefront. Go out and pick up a copy of Crimson Wren. And previously on Clownfish TV, they're in stock. They're shipping every couple of days. We're sending books out.
I'll send the next batch out on Monday.
Yeah, we couldn't get any more out today, but we'll send some more out.
Well, we're in the middle of a storm too, so there's that.
That is that too. Yeah. So yeah, we've talked a lot about Hasbro. We've talked about how tight it was. They laid people off like 2 weeks before Christmas, but there were other companies that did it too. And we had Ernst & Young. We had State Street, Zulily.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the Zulily shutting stuff down.
Yeah, Peeps shut their website down.
Yeah, that was weird.
Spotify laid a bunch of people off. Really, a lot of these.
I don't know what the hell that is.
City Financial, Amazon. And
well, Amazon makes sense. Where was it at? Like, last month, because you'd think they need them for shipping, but I thought they were going to get rid of people.
No, it's their digital media. Media. Yeah, podcast, streaming, and gaming. So I'm seeing
Chewy laid people off too.
Chewy laid people off. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are a whole bunch that laid people off. And why do they do it? They said, organizations may lay workers off in December to tighten their belts and improve their bottom line before the end of the fiscal year.
So they can make it look like it's better than it is.
Yes. So that's just it. Because then they can say to their shareholders too, hey, going into 2024, we know that 2023 was bad, but going into 2024, look at all the overhead we got rid of. And that's what you are. I hate to break it to you. If you work for a corporation, you're overhead.
Well, then it'd be really, really ironic come 2024. They still needed some of those jobs, so they just hire other people.
Well, okay, so that's actually going on with Epic Games. I forgot about Epic Games. Epic Games laid a bunch of people off in, I think it was October, and then they were complaining they didn't have enough programmers for Fortnite. But they laid a bunch of programmers off, And so this is the thing. Like, some people are like, oh, they're doing it. They're getting rid of the social justice workers or getting rid of the lazy employees. I'm like, in some cases, maybe. I mean, I'm sure there's a short list of people that aren't performing that are ready to get the axe, but I don't think that's it. I think a lot of these companies are panicking right now. A lot of them are in tech, they're media. They're probably not used to this because, again, they've lived in summer for the last 8 or 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And now everybody's panicking because they can't just say, hey, we had a tight quarter. Let's just go get some venture capital. There isn't any more. Let's get some ad revenue. Oh, yeah, that's drying up too.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what are they going to do? So this is coming from Marketplace. And I thought this was interesting because I don't think anybody's talked about this before. They said, yeah, just because you made it through Christmas doesn't mean you're out of the woods.
Right.
They said over the past decade, they said that more and more companies maybe aren't laying off during the holidays, but they're shifting it into the second quarter of the year. So what they do is they wait for the year end. A lot of companies, their fiscal year end is the actual calendar year end. Now, with a company like Disney, it's like what, October to October or something like that.
Yeah, end of September to,
Yeah, it's a little bit different for them, but most companies, it's January through the end of December, and then they have a couple weeks to chew on it, probably tell their management, hey, we got to cut some people. And even when times are good, they're cutting people. They said a lot of firms are moving that into the second quarter of the year. They said traditionally the primary audience for layoff announcements has not been the employees whose jobs are being cut. That's it. You don't tell. People aren't being told. They're not being told. So
they're not being told, because then they're going to jump ship and they need you until they don't need you.
Yeah, so they're telling the shareholders first. That's it.
But great, unless your people were shareholders also.
Yeah, they said companies are recognizing we need to do layoffs a little bit more carefully with regard to the public relations associated with them.
We don't want to get caught. We don't want to get the backlash from the public. So we got to be really careful and quiet about it.
We got to be careful.
It gets found out anyway.
Yeah, we're not going to do it during Christmas. They said no executive wants to be perceived as Mr. Potter of Bedford Falls, the meanest man in the old movie It's a Wonderful Life, especially around the holidays. So what they're doing is they're basically delaying it, because you don't want a headline like this. Like, oh my God, toy company Hasbro lays off right before Christmas. You assholes. You're still getting laid off. You're just probably getting laid off in like February or March. And I always thought, and I thought it was weird because I always thought it was kind of an unspoken rule that you don't lay people off at the holidays. You don't lay them off at Christmas. You wait a few months or you wait a month. But then the flip side is they also get that false sense of security going into the next year that like they've got a job.
You're under the assumption companies care.
You're on, yeah. I think
they care about, which they basically said as much, is they care about public opinion.
Public opinion.
They care. They don't do it not because it's the right thing to do. They do it because they know that they'll get called out all over the internet.
Yes.
And public opinion will impact them negatively. That's why they aren't doing it. It's not because they're decent. It's just because they don't want to be, glared at by everybody else.
Yeah. Those employees might be less likely to vent about the company on TikTok if they get laid off after the holidays.
No, they're still going to vent, especially if it's done in a shitty manner. I'm sorry.
If it's done in a shitty manner. But yeah, they're not giving people a heads up. I mean, they used to. I know California, they have the Warren Act or something. But I think that only applies to a certain number of employees. So if you work for a firm and it doesn't have, however many they have to have the Warren Act, they could just lay off that day and just be like. Now, if you're paying attention and you're smart, and I'm assuming a lot of these people haven't been through this before, you know what to look for. When your dog has never been to the vet before and your dog gets into the car and thinks he's going for a ride, and then once his balls get cut off, he's not as excited to go to the vet anymore.
He's not excited to get in the car.
He's not excited to get in the car.
It's a 50-50 chance. I'm either going to go to the dog park or go to the vet.
Yeah, so Charlie, it took a while to get him in the car, and it's like suspicious, like, where are we going?
Am I going to Grammy Papa's or am I going to the vet?
Am I going to the vet or am I going for a walk? What's going on? And that's when you've been around the block as much as we have and you've been through this, you know what to look for. And again, I will tell you, heads up.
They've cut Neil's balls off several times.
My balls have been cut off a couple times, but the same pattern.
Of cars.
I am. I don't.
And squirt bottles.
It's because you hose me all the time. You get the squirt bottle after me. If I'm not good, she gets the squirt bottle out after me. But no, I know what to look for. And when there's no future talk, that's your biggest red flag. If you're like a project manager and they're not talking about future projects, guess what? You're probably not going to be managing any projects. I'm just saying. If you ask them point blank, well, hey, what are we doing next year? And they don't answer, that's probably your answer right there. But they're saying it's going to get really bad for media in 2024.
I'm sure it is because, like you said, the venture capital's gone. That was like a thing that happened this past year. And now we're coming into now I think that the ad revenue is going to get a little bit better because it's election year.
Yes.
But I do think that there's been things being done by companies to try to make sure that they keep the lion's share of the ad revenue instead of giving it to other people. So I think it's going to be harder to get that.
So this is NPR that was complaining about being labeled a government-sponsored news
Yes,
agency
I
by
remember that.
Elon
Yes,
Musk.
yes.
So they said that this is bad because we have so many journalists out of work that they can't fight against misinformation during this election.
Yeah, well, you know what? We fight against misinformation all the time. That's usually coming from the quote-unquote journalist who went to journalism college.
Yeah, journalism college for journalists who like to do a journalism. Yeah, so they said in addition to job losses, the media's addiction to toxic but buzzy personalities remains a serious flaw. That's on the left side. I hate to break it to you. That's like too many supposedly serious news platforms refuse to accept the worst outcome for shameless attention addicts like George Santos isn't breathless coverage.
So basically, it's the NPR is going to blame everything on the right because they're not political. They're not a mouthpiece. They're not, whatever.
A late night TV is going to take a hit. They said streaming's going to take a hit.
Nothing of value was lost on that one.
Because they're not going to make as many shows, which means that honestly, they're not making as many shows. They're not going to advertise as many shows either.
Well, yeah, the advertising money, I think you're going to see it go in places, like the streaming services, because right now everybody and their brother is like making it ad supported and having ad supported tiers, and they're cramming in so many commercials now in a short period of time. And then you have like YouTube and places where people actually watch and go, and they're gonna target those places.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the salt is coming from, because a lot of these journalists, the reason that they go hard at YouTubers and podcasters is because citizen journalists have basically replace them, and you can also see the numbers, and that the advertising money and the sponsorship money is going to citizen journalists because they can look at their YouTube videos and be like, oh yeah, this person gets like 1 million views on average on their, so we know we're going to get eyeballs, right? Versus, CNN or ABC or something. You have to just trust me, bro. People are watching us. Trust me.
Yeah, CNN's so great that they shut down CNN Plus in
I know, right?
a month.
Plus, they have the overhead too. Like somebody in their basement or their little shed in their backyard, whatever, can make videos that people watch, giving honest opinions versus some like ridiculous studio.
Well, you have so many outlets out there and journalists and quotes just saying their opinions are news.
Yeah.
But then they're mad if somebody else does the same thing. Well, you're not a journalist. That's just your opinion. Well, so was your article, but here we are.
I was doing a journalism since the 1990s.
Yeah.
Literally, my first real job was doing a journalism. So yeah, I might not have gone to journalism clown college, but I did my time as a reporter, as an editor, and then I moved into digital stuff. So piss off, fuck off. Anyway,
yeah.
This is interesting though too. They're talking about streaming. They're like, guys, we need to make sure the right programs survive, because they're culling shows, right? Based on viewership. After a year in which programs like a Black Lady sketch show, Reservation Dogs, and the LGBTQ-centered reboot of A League of Their Own, and the Black-centered revival of The Wonder Years all went away, and also American Born Chinese got canceled. But I think it's
I don't think it's about diversity. It's about no one's watching these shows.
They're not watching them. It doesn't matter. Like, hey, you can't say people aren't watching shows with black folks on them when in the 1980s, the biggest show on TV was The Cosby Show. In the 1990s, one of the biggest shows on TV was The Fresh Prince. And they had predominantly black
there are
cast.
lots of shows that have lots of diversity that still do
well. They don't suck.
That's just it. They don't suck.
They don't suck.
And that's just it. And I think that they're conflating the two, and that's not the case. I think we need to make sure we support these shows so they stick around. No, you don't.
No.
And I'm sorry, to be honest with you, there's not enough people that watch or read NPR and watch these shows to support to keep them on the air, because they are not indicative of the general public. And the general public in itself is not completely racist and sexist because they don't watch the shows NPR likes.
Yeah.
Because the general public doesn't care about these shows.
I think what is going to happen is we're going to see a course correction. This is going to make a lot of people salty, a lot of journalists salty, a lot of people working in Hollywood salty, because so much of this stuff was propped up artificially with venture capital, and it's gone, and now everything is going to have to be self-sustaining, or it gets gone, just like it used to be. Like, you don't bring the numbers, we're not bankrolling you. And NPR is a huge example of that. Like, you're out there begging for money, but they've said in other articles that their revenue is way down because we're in a recession. I know you don't like to hear it, but we are, and people aren't giving news outlets like you, stacks of cash to keep spouting bullshit.
The general public knows that a lot of the media outlets are full of shit. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.